Welcome to Audacity Works, a podcast inspired by and dedicated to the working artist, the creative entrepreneur, and generally, doing the damn thing. This exists on the premise that the world belongs to those who have the audacity to believe that their lives have value. This is for you. Welcome to Audacity Works. I am your host, Rachel Strickland, and this is episode number 88. And today I have in the studio, and we may as well say that, even though it's an electronic studio, my good friend, Ross Travis, who is an award-winning actor, clown, and acrobat specializing in Chinese pole and creating genre-defying original work that begins conversations and incredible characters that tell stories from the fringes of human propriety. My word. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I like that word. Yeah.
Propriety?
Yeah. I'm going to have to look that up later.
It's like polite society.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, the thing that you don't participate in.
Yep.
in your work.
I'm going to have to steal that one.
So you may have noticed that I did identify you as a clown, and it's because I can't say properly the word of the discipline that you do. Will you please say that word for me?
Yeah, so is bouffon is the French, how the French say it. I guess in America you could say bouffon.
So you're a bouffon?
Bouffon.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's right. Bouffon. What's this bouffon stuff? So it's a grotesque. It's a physical theater form, kind of kindred to clown. It's on the opposite end of the spectrum to clown.
There's a spectrum of clown?
Yeah, totally. So if you imagine a line, and clown is on one end of it, bouffon's on the other, and so it's the dark clown, and it is a grotesque satirical physical theater form that was codified by Jacques Lecoq, who was a physical theater luminary in the 60s and 70s in Paris, and he was looking at different satirical forms of theater and presence throughout time. For example, the Feast of Fools celebration during the medieval times, where all of the hunchbacks and people who had been ostracized to the outskirts of the society would be able to come down into the town square and wear the king's crown for a day and point, and they were given permission to come down there and make fun of the king and queen and all the polite society and kind of show them a bird's eye view, outsider's view of the hypocrisy of their society. Jacques Lecoq was also looking at the satyr plays from the Greek times where, after a production of Oedipus Rex, the tragedy, group of satyrs would come in, like people in goat hooves and goat costumes, and they would just make fun of the tragedy that you had just seen. It's kind of a palate cleanser, so everybody could leave the theater and not go out into the streets and just like kill themselves, I guess. And then he was also looking at indigenous societies throughout time and throughout the world, which often have a healer or a clown of some sort who, provides context and inspiration or insight through ritual and humor. And so he kind of was looking at all these different things throughout time and put them together into this form called bouffon. Now, going back to the line of clown and bouffon, clowns are playing for the audience, are their relationship to the audience is horizontal. So the audience is laughing at the clown, at the folly of the clown, at the naivete of the human experience. And so it's like a naive, childlike play.
Mm-hmm.
In the Buffon, it has a vertical relationship between the heavens and the earth. So they are playing both in high poetry of, the cosmos, and as well as in the muck, in the shit of society, of the dirt, so they have this vertical relationship, and their relationship to the audience is they are laughing at the audience, and the audience's laughter is inspired out of seeing their own folly. So so the audience is laughing, it's more of like an ouch laugh of like, ooh, like, oh, that's true. They're seeing their hypocrisy, or maybe ways in which they're, having a challenging time in their society. So there is a like spectrum between these two things. And oftentimes people gravitate towards different places on this line. And my happy place is kind of in the middle.
I was just about to ask.
Between this like naive play and this more knowing, like in Buffon, we talk about it's a corkscrew. Buffons have a corkscrew eye. So when they come out, they're like looking into the audience and looking for things to make fun of. It's like mocking, so yeah. Just a little bit.
I got to see this in action, because when I met Ross, we were working together on a show called Salvage by Kinetic Arts Productions, and then Inversion, a Disobedient Circus, the following year. And I wasn't in Inversion. I did some choreography, but I got to be a cast member as well in Salvage. And for Ross's Chinese pole solo, I was perched. My character was perched up high, like right next to it, because at the end of his solo, he would jump from the pole to the wall where I was perched. And then we had this like little smoochy moment that someone caught a picture of. It was really cute. So I've gotten to see your solo from a very unusual perspective, probably more than most people have gotten to see your pole solo from a bird's eye view, which was very cool.
Yeah.
And I still don't know how we didn't meet until that, because we were operating in the exact same circles. But anyway, stars collided then.
Yeah, it was interesting when I was in San Francisco, because I've always had one foot in two different worlds, or one of each of my feet in different places. So because I'm a theater creator, I've had one foot in the theater world, and then as a circus performer, one foot in circus. And I think, my career has had a very strange, different trajectory because of that. And so, yeah, like San Francisco, there was many people like you that I didn't get to meet until I was working with them. So, yeah, and I wasn't necessarily a part of some of the cliques, I guess, in that world.
Always.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I recall that show very fondly, and if I remember correctly, we all cried on closing night because we had gotten pretty attached to each other.
Yeah, it was one of my top 5 favorite shows of my career that I hope we can redo it someday. It was like very I felt like it was a very strong piece, and like vision and the aesthetics and the characters and the story, and like, yeah, so ditto.
Yeah, and that's something that
Yeah.
I remember that I had never worked with Jaron Hollander, our director, before, like, as a director. But you would go out and interact with the audience for a significant portion of time. As I'm not going to say it with the French accent because it'll sound ridiculous. I'll just say Buffon. Okay,
That's
that
right,
character.
actually.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. Because I just got so nervous and started sweating. And sometimes members of the audience would complain afterwards, which is kind of the point of the character. And I'd always look at Jaron, and he'd be like, "Awesome." We got a complaint? Awesome. Because that was the function.
Yeah, it's interesting because with the Buffon is like you're playing with this attraction repulsion. So I, in my career, have had the full spectrum of experiences. The ideal now for me is that, you know, you push buttons, you rile up the audience, but you pull them back in. So it's like this play of this line of the grotesque, of going too far, pulling it back. You know, you want the audience to stay. But I did a show early in my career called You Killed Hamlet, or Guilty Creatures Sitting at a Play, that was a two-hander Buffon piece about our dysfunctional relationship with death. And it was hardcore Buffon. Like, we were really going into dark territory. And in the US, we were okay as far as audience members leaving. But then we went on the Canadian Fringe, and we would have masses, you know, Canadians like are nicer people. And we would just, they weren't used to this like kind of hard American comedy, like sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
And they were leaving. Like, we were like watching, you know, we would have 5-10 people walk out of shows. And so at the time it was like kind of a badge of honor. It was like, yeah, like kind of punk rock, and like, yeah, that's cool, you know, or whatever. But yeah, I think now I'm like, and with the work I'm doing now, I'm interested in like creating the conversations, but keeping everybody in the room. So yeah, and with that one that you're talking about with Salvage, it was like that character was pretty naive, was very, very low status. I was like the most low status character in the show. And there was one part where we're eating cockroaches, and, you know, the cockroach transforms me into this monster that goes out into the audience. And I'm like, it was pretty awesome for me because I was able to like mimetically play tearing children's heads off and like drinking their blood, and, you know, like all without, I wasn't touching anybody, you know, it's all through mime and just play of this monster, this cockroach monster. And at one point, there was another bit where we were having a fight with a toilet plunger. The toilet plunger would go flying slow motion out into the audience and land on, like, I would have it in my hands doing the slow motion sounds and stuff, and it would land on whatever guy was bald in the audience, right plump on their head. And then I did a whole bit trying to get it off of them. So one night, I think I got too close to this guy and maybe humped him humped him too much or something. And he like had to go to a chiropractor, I guess. And so after that, we would get to that part and I would pull out a piece of paper, like a release form, and have them sign the like release form that I was about to do this bit with them. So I don't know. His complaint opened up a new opportunity for a new bit. So
God, I love that so much. Oh, yeah. So I was reading your bio before this. It was so much fun looking at your website. Just I don't know why I have this like. I'm so proud of my friends. And like looking at your website, because you are so prolific and have created so many different things. And I wasn't even taking notes. Like I forgot to take notes just because I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Look at that. But so I didn't realize that you had been to Savannah College of Art and Design, that you are a SCAD graduate. Didn't know that. I did know that you went to Dell'Arte, and I've heard whispered stories of this place, that it's a clown college, but actually it's like the hardest, most brutal, this is what I've heard, form of education. And I would love to know your thoughts on that. What was that like?
Yeah, so I went there in 2009. I had been living in Chicago for 3 years after I went to SCAD, which is Savannah College of Art and Design. And I started training clown with this company called 500 Clown. And there's only 3 of them. And they were awesome. Like, talk about audience interactive, like amazing shows. Really and they would have risk components. Like they would build these structures that would like fall out from under them, and they're like hanging on stuff and it's swinging, and like so they were playing with real risk, kind of like in the circus, and I was really interested in that work. So I went to Dell'Arte because one of them had been there, and I trained there for a year, did their professional training program. And at the time, there was a very notorious clown teacher there named Ronlin Foreman. And he was the pedagogue of the school. And it's not only a clown school, it's actually a school for actor creators. So people who are interested in making their own work. And it was at the time based on the Jacques Lecoq lineage, who I had mentioned before about the Buffon stuff. He created this pedagogy that was based on different forms pulled oftentimes, except for the clown and Buffon, from Western traditions, which there's been a whole rethinking of that in the past couple of years, because it's kind of Eurocentric, Commedia dell'arte, tragedy, melodrama, so you're training in all of these forms from the past in order to learn from them and pick and choose what you want from them, to create your own voice and your own vision as an artist. So, yeah, it was for me, I think for different people, the pedagogy hits differently because they, at the time, were doing it through this method called via negativa, which is through the negative. So all of your feedback would be not coddled at all. And so I was hungry for that. I was tired of being, I went to pretty hard high school, actually. But in our education system, our society, I find that there is a lot of generosity and uplifting, and so I was kind of like, whoa, I'm at like theater boot camp basically, or and so I was all about like getting sliced and diced and getting socks thrown at me and stuff. It was cool to me. I can totally understand how for other people that would not work. So it's very different. Yeah, so I was there for a year, and at the end of that year, I asked Ron, I was thinking about staying on for the MFA, and I asked if, because I had read about the Buffon form in Jacques Lecoq's book, and there's only like, he has like whole chapter on commedia, whole chapter on clown. Buffon's only a couple pages. But I read that and I was like, whoa, that's what I want to be doing, because it's this, I had always had this like social conscious and activist aspect of myself, but also another part that was comedy, a comedian, interest in humor and stuff. And in my younger years, I was working as a playwright in Chicago and stuff. And a lot of my work I felt like was didactic a bit. Mm-hmm. And so I was always I had been looking for this way to bridge my social conscious and comedy. And this form was like an access point for me. So I asked him if they could offer that if I stayed for the MFA, and he said no. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go find that somewhere else then. So I moved to San Francisco, started training at Circus Center. There was a company called Naked Empire Buffon Company there that I worked with for a couple years. I trained with this amazing Italian pedagogue named Giovanni Fusetti in Boulder, who he every year offers workshops in Boulder, Colorado that I highly recommend. So he had a month-long Buffon workshop there. I trained with a woman in DC named Dodi DeSanto, who also had a Buffon workshop. And so, yeah, and it's funny because when I asked Ronlin about that form when I was thinking about staying on at the school, he wasn't into that world, and had a contradictory view of that kind of work. Mm-hmm. And so years later, I had been doing Buffon for a while, but I had some issues with some of the aspects of it, some of the realm, and wanted to research and find someone to provoke me to find answers. And so there was a grant opportunity, and I reached out to Ronlin and got this grant for us to work together, for him to, kind of help me figure out some of those questions that I was having. And that led to a beautiful, amazing working relationship. And he's directed my past 2 shows. And so full circle, from him being my teacher to mentor and director now. So, yeah.
That is a layered relationship.
Yeah.
And what was that? Viva Negativo? What am I saying?
Viva Negativa. Yes.
Oh, it's pretty close, actually. It was pretty close.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
It sounds amazing. Like you would come out of a year of that with the ability not to be destroyed by your critics because you'd been criticized for a year straight.
It just works differently for different people, and like some people I think came out of there not in that way. So
mm-hmm. It would depend on the personality, I reckon.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I would like to think that it would spur me on to greater heights, but I also don't. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do that. I'm very
Yeah.
squishy.
I think, now, those of us who endured it, like wear it as a badge of honor or whatever, but now also it's a lot of it's I think a better or a more cohesive method is the play of figuring out what each individual needs and attending to that as a teacher. And so, yeah, more nuanced approach. And so I think that's important, in these times.
Yeah, well, I would agree.
Yeah.
Like learning styles, taking them into consideration can yield some pretty good results. But I'm so glad that was able to give you exactly the food that you needed. Were you kind of tired of people telling you that was great? Like before you had gone?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I was like really into not being told that because, the life of an artist is really hard and you deal with a lot of rejection, a lot of people saying no to you, and a lot of failure. And so I was of the mind that it's like, why do you go to school as an artist is to learn in a safe space that those qualities is a lot of the thing. Because I think a lot of people go to art school and they're told, oh, great, this is awesome, blah, 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 whatever. And then they get out into the real world and then it's like, oh, whoa, it's like, this is really hard, Yeah. But they're not prepared for it, And so I think my experience there thickens my skin in some ways. And I will say that all the teachers there, from Ronlin down to everybody else, it was with empathy and with care. It wasn't out of malevolence or anything. They had the best intentions of creating poets, of creating artists that could go out into the world and persevere and get back up and have buoyancy. And so, yeah, that's all I'll say about that.
I find that really inspiring because that perspective is really missing. And I don't know anything about like the different schools right now and what their syllabus is like. I only see the people that come out of those schools when they come to me. And I think that's really intelligent that because they were going for sustainability for your life and to make you a resilient and far-reaching artist. I think that's pretty fucking beautiful, actually.
Yeah, totally. What have you experienced of people coming out of schools now? Like,
I have experienced that there's not very much in the way of career development as far as like how to have a sustainable life as an artist. It's just, and I understand like how difficult that conversation is very intimately because it's not even probable that life as an artist full-time is sustainable. It's possible, but it's not necessarily probable. And I think that gets kind of glossed over. Or people come out of school with completely broken spirits because they're like that energy of empathetic viva negativa was not the approach. It's more like, let's make these people feel as insecure as possible and create a culture, like a rock star culture that that's very hierarchical and not nourishing, and just see what happens. And this is what happens.
Yeah.
Not all the time. It really depends on personality, as you've said, but frequently.
Yeah, I think I also feel like when I went to Savannah College of Art and Design, loved it there. It was a new program, but business wise, I came out of there not knowing. When I got to Chicago, I had to take like an audition class and a class to figure out how to put together a resume and stuff. So I feel like some of these institutions have teachers who have been in the institution for a while and aren't working artists anymore. And so they don't necessarily know what to do business wise, or how to teach people how to have a career. They can teach the art part, but not the business part. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know how that's changed now. This is quite a while ago for me. But I'm grateful that there's people like you who are helping people out to figure those things out, you know? Yeah.
Thanks. I guess I could call it job security.
Yeah, so keep going. Keep not teaching the business part, everybody in colleges.
No, please do, because oh my god.
Good job.
Yeah, do it. Repetition is king. Way.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't go to so much secondary education, or go through so much secondary education, but I got my bachelor's at a liberal arts college, and it had like nothing in that way. So that was interesting.
Yeah,
you know, to realize there's a giant kind of hole. But so for the past 3 years, you've been with Flynn Creek Circus for 3 seasons. Is that accurate?
6 seasons.
6 seasons. Oh.
Yeah. Off and on for the last 8 years. Yeah.
And would you, I mean, I've been to several Flynn Creek Circus shows. And the one where you played the French guy, what was that guy's name?
Monsieur Loulou.
That's right.
Oui.
Oh, it's good fun. And it's a tent show, so I would, it's kind of a rare bird, a circus like that. Like, it's a trad circus, basically.
Yeah, there's not many. There's about 10 to 15 of them that exist, like, now in the US. Yeah, under 20. And so this circus, Flynn Creek Circus, travels Northern California, Oregon, and sometimes goes to Colorado. And pretty awesome circus. It's a mud show. It's a lot of really hard work. It's all hands on deck. So you know, like, they run it in the tradition of old family circuses. And so you are performing, you're setting up the tent, you're doing concessions, you're doing all the work. And so, yeah, it's amazing lifestyle, also very, very hard. And, but this circus, they push tradition. And so, again, this idea of risk, they're into taking risks with content, with structuring of their shows. And so, unlike a lot of trad circuses that you'll see that are kind of in this formula, this structure of a ringmaster and act to act, they will have theatrical elements and theatrical characters, through lines, play with different kinds of structuring of storytelling. And so that's been awesome to me, because I've throughout my career, like with those Kinetic Arts shows and with this company I worked with in Canada called Firefly Theater and Circus and Flynn Creek Circus here, I've been able to find these pockets of companies that are interested in fusing theater and circus together and being irreverent to the forms, you know. Flynn Creek Circus has an adult show in each place that they go to. So one night, sometimes two a week, there's, you know, you do an adult show where you spice it up and there's some nudity and like just the comedy gets to be more grotesque. So that's been really fun for me. You know, I love doing family friendly stuff, but if I can let my comedy chops like go into the where my comfort territory, that's pretty fun too, you know. So yeah,
you have managed to find the pockets with the flavor that you like best.
Yeah, totally. Yep. Yeah.
No risk it, no biscuit.
Yep. Totally. Yeah. No risk it, no biscuit. I love that.
We found that it's on Sean, my husband, has a shirt that says "No risk it, no biscuit." We're like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, makes perfect sense to me. There's a picture of a cookie on it, so we say that a lot now. It's a household phrase, and I think it encourages.
I love that. I want that shirt. You know, like that concept of risk. Going back to the 500 Clown folks, you know, that was the first time, because I'd grown up in theater, and then I'm seeing this theater show where they're really playing with these things falling out and you don't know what's going to happen. Maybe someone's going to get hurt, and playing with that edge of like where the audience, you're sitting forward on your seat, like in expectation of what's going to happen next, you know? That really, I've been chasing that my entire career, and it's there in the circus, you know. Someone can fall, you can play with that space of when you're doing tricks, of how hard it is and falling, and you know, in Chinese pole it's a lot of drops. It's why I picked that apparatus, is there's a lot of falling and catching right at the last minute, and the you know, it's 18 feet high, so there's the distance from the top, and it doesn't move with you. So like an aerial, you can wrap and stuff. A pole, you can't wrap you can't hold it like with your leg, or wrap it and have it hold you. So yeah, I've always been interested in that, the risk it biscuit.
No risk it, no biscuit. That might end up being the title of this episode, honestly.
Yeah. And I think it's like the salvation of performance, of physical performance in some ways. It's a way to pull people in, because now in the world we live in, people can see anything on Instagram. They can see anything on the internet. And so how do we wrest people's attention away from the screen and back to the stage, or like, you know? And the great thing about circus is, like, when we go to a town, there's the tent, there's something that pulls you there. And with my project that I just did, I was riding through all of these towns on this EV art bike that looked like a bark beetle. And so I was like, had a visual thing going through the town, and then would go to a park, open it up, and inside's a puppet stage and stuff. And I was like, there's something about circus and art that can just go to a specific place, go to where the people are, which I think is like really intriguing to me right now. Because, as you know, theaters are suffering. People aren't wanting to go sit in a dark room as much anymore. So it's like trying to figure out how to get people's attention and show them an experience that is like not on a screen and is just as cool, you know? Yeah. And I feel like risk is playing with risk and risky situations and extreme situations is, for me, a way to like try to do that, I guess.
Yes, and it's working. Well, it does work.
I hope so. I don't know.
One of the first, so there was a show that you created. I think it was the inaugural Artist in Residence program at Kinetic Arts Center, and you made the greatest monkey show on earth, which I remember vividly because it was fucking terrifying. Spoiler alert, the monkey wins, and Ross played the monkey. And after the monkey wins, I won't spoil how the monkey wins, but the monkey wins. And when the monkey re-enters the stage, I wanted to leave so badly, but you couldn't have gotten me out of my chair. But I felt very unsafe. Well, that's a lot of acting training built up in that body. It was very effective, my friend.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That makes me want to do that show again.
I wish you would.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and it was very exciting because that's always how I don't go to a circus show or any show, frankly, to be impressed. I'm completely uninterested in being impressed, but I do want to be moved, and that includes being terrified. And you weren't. It wasn't just gratuitous terror. It was a message. All of your shows are built around a value system, and it really drove it home because it wasn't just like a nice Instagram quote, like animals deserve a good life. Like, nobody cares about that Instagram quote, but you will remember the monkey returning to the stage.
Yep.
That will make
I love that. I hope I know in other countries there's more of this, but I hope for us here in the US that there is more and more circus and people playing with different approaches to circus that uses spectacle not as the main thing, but using spectacle to achieve an end of storytelling or, creating an effect is one tool in the toolbox to create an experience other than just wowing an audience, like using it to terrify them or to share a social message or whatever it is, I hope we can do more of that here.
Amen. The other show or another show of yours that I remember seeing, which was outdoors and on the pier in San Francisco, was Bucko the Whale Man, which was a 2-person show for which you had to build a ship on wheels. Pirate ship. It was a fucking ship on wheels. The set was a ship. And
a whaleboat.
A whaleboat, okay. Sure.
I love that it was a pirate ship to you.
I just take things and adopt them, and then I'm like, this is true now. Yeah. I've decided this is accurate. That show and your work in particular has made a big impact on me. One, because your work is very risky and engaging, and 2, because you are one of the only American artists I know who navigates the funding system with efficiency. Like you get it. And I kind of wrote it off with a bad attitude. after my first few failed attempts. I'm like, this is bullshit. I'll just earn money and pay for things myself, which is not always sustainable. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that and navigating the American funding system.
Yeah, so I was had just got so I was at the San Francisco Circus Center in 2010 after my year at Dell'Arte in 2009. And I did the 1-year training program at the Circus Center. And then after that, I was working in circus with companies like Circus Bella and also in the theater. And I was doing the show with this amazing artist named Taylor Mack called Lily's Revenge. And Taylor's a drag performer who creates these lavish, beautiful song cycle, intense theatrical productions. And this one was like really long. It was like 12 hours or something. It was just like epically long. And so I was doing that show and I was like, man, this person is like, this is what I want to be doing, is like creating my own work, not doing other people's. It's nice doing other people's stuff, but I want to be making my own things. And so I started like researching that, how to do that. And at the time I think I knew because of my work with Naked Empire Buffon Company, I knew that you needed a fiscal sponsor if you're not a nonprofit. So there's basically 2 avenues you can go down. You can do all of this work to become a nonprofit in order to get grants and stuff, or you can find an organization that will act as an umbrella to you, and you pay a certain amount of, like they basically take a little cut out of all of your donations and grants and stuff in order to, give you support so you don't have to do all of that paperwork. And for many like small companies and an individual artists like me, it's like not necessary yet for me to be a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. So I was with Naked Empire. We had Fractured Atlas in New York as a fiscal sponsor, but I felt it was a little impersonal. I wasn't getting what I needed out of that. And as I transitioned out of working with Naked Empire Buffon, I started looking more locally, which I highly recommend, for a fiscal sponsor, and found Intersection for the Arts, which is in San Francisco. Highly recommend them. And so I applied. I think I got denied the first time, applied again, and got brought into their cohort. They had a program called the Accelerator Program, which was 3-4 months, once a week, going and meeting and learning all about grant writing, business, all this business stuff that you and I have been talking about that we don't learn in school. And so I did that, and I had already known a little bit about grant writing through working with Naked Empire Buffon. We had gotten some grants, but that just made my knowledge even better. And I found a mentor through that program named Beatrice Thomas, who I worked with her to bolster my grant writing skills as well, and started applying, and I got multiple times the individual artists grant commission grant, which is I think it was 10 and then $15,000 through the SF Arts Commission a couple years in a row, and got some other grants from other places, Puffin Foundation, so on and so forth. And there's yeah, so I just started growing my knowledge about that. And it's a lot of work. And it's like, you and I are creative writers, and we're really good at writing flourishing, beautiful, bold things. But this, as you know, from our work together and stuff, that this requires a different kind of more concrete writing style. And so, and I found that developing these skills in writing grants, even when I don't get them, makes the vision for the art so much clearer. Because if I have to sit at the front of a project and really think through concretely what it's going to look like, I'm going to need this whale. I'm building the show that's going to be on this whale boat that's going to be built to scale of the old whale boats, but it's not going to be in the water. It's going to be like on the pier and have to be run with electrics. And I have to like sit there and really plot and conceive of the show and what the show is about and what it's trying to achieve with the audience and so on and so forth. You're that much farther ahead when you start developing the work, and it clarifies that, it forces you to clarify your vision. And a lot of that work with Intersection in the early stages was also about, clarifying a values statement and, your mission statement and all of that stuff. So that, I highly recommend to anybody finding a fiscal sponsor, and not just any fiscal sponsor, but one that has support, that is going to have classes or things like this accelerator program that can move you forward, So yeah, and so then that's just developed over time. And I also, especially during the pandemic and the pandemic times, I was like, okay, grant stuff, I was not getting them as much anymore, needing to find some new ways. And so I started doing online, like playing with other revenue streams, like creating online work and the Patreon stuff. And then this grant opportunity here, the Upstate California Creative Corps grant, became Blaze here at Flynn Creek Circus told me about it. And she was like, this is perfect for you. It has 4 tenets that you could apply for, and one of them is environmental issues and resilience, recovery, water and air stuff. And so I was like, whoa, that's like right up my alley. And so I applied, and it's a $60,000 grant. I was like, the biggest grant. I was like, holy cow, I can't believe, wow. And it was like so cool to scale up and be able to hire more artists. And, I have this affinity towards world building, creating these lavish worlds. And like with Bucko, with the boat, and this one, a friend of mine in Arizona has a EV bike touring company, and he had 10 EV bikes in a closet that he couldn't use anymore because they had a throttle on them. So he, in Arizona, had made that illegal. So he was like, come get these bikes. So I went and picked up these 10 bikes, and we Frankensteined them all together and built this bark beetle that a couple weeks ago I took on a 150-mile journey from Fort Bragg to Willows in Glenn County. So starting in Mendocino here and going all the way to Glenn County, and riding this thing the entire way. and it would the wings, the shell of it would come off and become like costume changing screens, and inside was a puppet stage for a Punch and Judy show, and I played 15 different characters doing an hour-long show about the climate crisis, how it's affecting the communities here in Mendocino Lake, Glenn, and Colusa counties. And yeah, it was like so invigorating and like rewarding to be able to get support from the state. This grant is through the California Arts Council, and so to get this money from the state to be able to go to these communities, and I had a big research process, like 3 months of research. And so, you know, I like met with these two, the former and current mayor of Willows in Glenn County. I met with this amazing group of indigenous women at Hakako Delay, which is a sustainable farm here on the Mendocino coast. And I was able to just like gather all the perspectives of these folks in the community and then create a work of art to share back with them some of the issues that are like being faced here, you know? So yeah, like yeah, that's kind of been my journey with that. And I've done some consulting, you know, like you and I worked together on some project proposals and stuff. But yeah, I hope that more circus gets funding like this, because yeah, it's like necessary, I think. So yeah.
Well, I would agree with you. And congratulations, by the way, on that.
Thank you.
That's a massive accomplishment. So would that be, what would be your number one, like, if you don't do anything else and you want to pursue funding applications, grant applications, if you don't do anything else, do this?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the first step is getting a fiscal sponsorship if you're an individual artist or a small company. And then making sure that entity has like some kind of support, classes, whatever. Start taking classes, grant writing classes. Oftentimes in the big cities, well, there's a lot of online resources to find grants and stuff. But there's also the Funders Forum. There's a place in San Francisco. I'm not going to remember it right now.
Okay.
But where it's a place where you can actually go and go inside, and they just have like books of people who are giving money. Like there's, you know, so that's a pretty amazing resource. You can also find all this stuff online now. That's a lot of work.
Super helpful.
You have to be like really diligent when you find these like grant opportunities to go in and read everything about them, to see if it's the right fit, because it's like, it sucks to spend a bunch of time on something and then you're like, it's like, you know, you have to live in Colorado to get this grant, and you find that out. You're like, oh, I overlooked that, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and generally, like, we could talk about the process of working on your thing with the Atlantic.
Good memory.
Was it?
Yeah, it was the Atlantic Center for the Arts. So, like I said, I had a bad attitude about applying for things. But I knew that Ross had some success, and there was this residency I really wanted to do at the Atlantic Center for the Arts. And I had applied to a couple other things as well. And I worked with Ross as a consultant and editor and cat wrangler, because I had no idea what I was doing, and it was so funny. All the notes, because we used Google Documents, and the comments kept getting more and more like, stop being poetic. Damn it, Rachel, this is too much poetry. We need concrete details. And it was so transformative, because I like you said, we're creative writers, and I was like, I'll just cast a spell with my proposal, and that's completely not what they're looking for at all. They want concrete evidence that you've thought this through, and like you said, it's just incredible for really gaining clarity on the scope of what you're trying to do, as being forced to talk about it in concrete terms and not cast a spell.
Yeah.
It was
and we worked a lot on your vision too, and just like we really looked at their proposal and who was in charge of dispersing the grants, like the people involved, and just like, like, who are they? What's their artwork about? What are they? So then, like, within your proposal, we like highlighted those aspects within your work, because there were things in there. It took us a little bit to like bring those to the forefront, that were, with that particular one, there was some social justice advocacy stuff that they were looking for. And so, yeah, we just like highlighted that. And yeah, so it's like really, it's like being a sleuth in a way of, really investigating the source, becoming really familiar with the people involved, in how you can highlight your proposal so that when they're reading it, they get like thirsty about it,
That's what you want.
Like,
make the board thirsty.
You want to thirst trap them with your words, with your concrete words. Don't
create a spell, create a thirst trap.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that. I'm curious, because you have done so much and created so many things, and in a lot of different avenues, like traditional theatrical, mud circus, rolling pirate ship. So after all of this work that you've done and worked in different ways and experienced different ways, what are you hungry to experience as an artist?
Now I'm trying to tour things. So I'm like, I did like the fringe festival circuits, and I've done, although I'm not done with touring with circuses. I definitely want to keep doing that. And I love the lifestyle of a tented circus, and maybe next one we'll have a crew, So I'm like a little bit ready physically to not be working so hard. But as far as my own work, I want to be touring it to festivals, to different places, and being presented, as opposed to doing the fringe festival circuit where you're like kind of working really hard. I'm like trying to find avenues, going to booking conferences and stuff to get my work presented at places. So that's one goal I have right now. And we'll see how it goes. Now I have these two most recent shows that I created. And I've always been a little nervous about booking conferences, because my work does have an edge. But this most recent show I made is family friendly. So
what's the title?
Somehow we made a family friendly Buffon show, you know.
I don't know how you did that.
Yeah. But so there's, I have that, and then I have a theater show that is more dark called Tempting Fate, that is another solo. So I'm thinking about trying to package them together and tour them together. But I also want to keep working on these older pieces like the Bucko and find more funding for that. And yeah, so.
So what's the other show that's new besides Tempting Fate?
Well, so Where Do We Go From Here is the one I just made, and then Tempting Fate is the one I made right before this. Yeah.
Damn. I need a nap.
Me too. Jeez, I have to go train after this.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, yeah. if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area, you're really lucky because there's 2 opportunities to see Ross perform coming up, and that's the Kinetic Arts Festival, and shortly or immediately thereafter, the San Francisco Aerial Arts Festival. And what are you performing there? The beginning.
I'm going to be doing my Chinese pole act. So I'm, just got done on this tour doing this 15 character show, traveling on this bike. And now I'm transitioning into getting my butt back into shape on the pole to do my Chinese pole act, which hopefully I'm working with you a little bit on. Yeah. And just like leveling it up, getting like some more transitional stuff in there. And yeah, this is like kind of a more, in my career, I've built acts for shows. So people hire me because I can like play characters and stuff. So like with Salvage, I was this, very low status kind of, it was a post-apocalyptic world. So low status kind of street scavenger. And then Inversion was like a anarchic cult leader type of guy. And, Monsieur Lulu was a French lover. And so the character kind of shapes what my pole act ends up being in the shows. But I've never had the opportunity really to just create a act that like highlights the skills that I've developed over the years. I have done that, but it's not been fully like realized. So I performed this like last year or the year before in the adult shows at Flynn Creek Circus. It's just like all of my tricks. It's like kind of like running a marathon. And now I'm like just trying to clean it up, make it look really nice, get a nice costume, maybe get some music composed, work with you on transitions, and yeah. So it's not going to be character based, and that's really unusual for you. Yeah, it's pretty, and it's really strange. It's like kind of strange for me. Yeah. I can't wait to see it. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I really like doing the character stuff, but I have wanted to have an act, but it has to be fun for me. So, and fun for me is playing a character. So maybe there is some kind of character aspect to it, but that is more just highlighting. Okay, so to get to the nitty gritty of it, it's hard. It's been a challenge for me in my career in the circus to get hired sometimes because I present as a chameleon a bit.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know what I am. So like, and if I send an act to, like, say I'm like, hey, I want to be in your show, but I send them an act of my pole or a video of my pole act where I'm a Pegasus or a French lover or something like that, they think a producer is like, oh, this is what this guy does. I'm like, well, no, that's one of the things that I do. I can also do this and this and this. But it's like, by then they're lost or something. I don't know. It's like, can be a challenge because my interest is in like transformational acting and the circus world. That's a bit unusual because a lot of people in circus commit themselves to one act, one vision their entire career often. Mm-hmm. And that's not been the case with me. Mm-mm. So yeah, I'm kind of just looking to build an act that is more bare bones in a way, that it is like that someone can put their vision on it. I don't know. It's like we can have more conversations about this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm thirsty. I got the thirst for it, so.
You got the thirst trap?
Yeah. Good job. I'm so intrigued.
Awesome.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been incredible, and I know people are going to be taking notes listening to this one back, so thank you so much for being here.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me. And I'm on Instagram and all the places. If people have questions, they can reach out to me. And I am interested in consulting and stuff too, so if people want help on proposals and stuff, I'm open to that as well.
10 out of 10 would recommend that y'all take him up on that, and check the show notes. There's going to be like 1,000 links for Ross and ways to get in touch with him, so don't be shy. You can find him.
Thank you so much.
I'll talk to you soon. Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
no risk it, no biscuit.
Yeah, for real.
Okay, my friends, I'm just popping on to say, much later after we recorded this episode, thank you so much for listening. And an extra special shout out to my patrons for making this and so much more possible for me, because this podcast is powered by Patreon. And if it was useful to you, the best thanks that you could give me is to share it with someone else that you thought it could help. Go on, risk it for your biscuit, and don't go back to sleep.